This is Aaron Levine, LG Insurance Agency, with another very special episode of the Who You Work With Matters podcast. It's great to have a hacker as a who on our side today. Andrew, thanks so much for joining me today. I have your bio in front of me. It says former CSIS tech ops operative with a background in military and offensive cyber operations supporting Canada's counterterrorism and national security missions. Like, that
Yeah.
sentence alone blows my mind because I don't even know what any of that means. Um, so you can definitely explain a little bit about your background. And then we want to go into the title of today's event is Think Like a Hacker, which I think is kind of cool. Brought to you by our friends at Cyber. Like, thank you so much to Francis and Bridget for bringing this together. Cyber is such a cool product for us on the offensive, but on the insurance side as well, with some tremendous benefits for individuals, which we don't necessarily get in the cyber insurance world. So we're going to get to all of that. But again, go into a little bit about your history, and let's talk about thinking like a hacker.
Yeah. So, CS, thank you very much for having me. By the way, thanks to Bridget and Francis as well. Um, yeah. So CSIS or CSIS is the Canadian Security Intelligence and Security establishment. And so I worked there for over a decade and supplied a lot of the desks, the national, international investigations with tech support. That tech support was really on the tech ops side, which is um, trying to infiltrate organizations and infiltrate targets and so on, trying to get information for in support of the investigation. So the
You say
ethical
tech
hacker.
support, and that's like super boring. Like, oh, we provided tech support. And then you say we were infiltrating terrorist organizations. Like, that's so much cooler.
Yeah, it's it is still tech support. We support the tech, but in a different sense. And so the ethical hacker idea is kind of ingrained in my DNA, I guess, of doing that. And that's what we do nowadays is we do ethical hacking for organizations, try to make them more secure. And the idea with Think Like a Hacker is talking about how easy it kind of is and how, day to day, like these hackers are a business and it's not something that is, set it and forget it, or, if you ignore it, it'll go away. Just trying to show folks that it's something that happens and how easy it can be sometimes with what's out there.
Dude, it's so scary out there with the amount of phishing attempts that come through. I have a friend of mine who I got a phishing attempt from because his system was compromised. We were good
Mhm.
enough to not click and delete, but unfortunately, somebody that got his phished information wound up spending, $75,000 recently without having any insurance to back it up either, right? Like
Yeah,
the sophistication on the business of hacking and stealing money from individuals and businesses is huge.
it's
And it's super scary, right? It's scary to operate in certain lights, and
it
it's
is
great to understand what's going on in the background.
it is a massive business. It used to be number three on the world economy after U.S. and China. Now it's taken it's the largest economy. And so a lot of people don't, a lot of people picture, the teenager in a hoodie in their parents' basement eating cheesies or something like that and having, a monster drink beside them. But they are organizations. They have a lot of money coming in. They've got departments, they've got HR departments, they've got retainers, they've got all of the stuff that any organization nowadays has. So they are professionals and they do this every day. So it is becoming a lot more sophisticated. The amount of effort that they're putting towards this, is definitely increasing, and they keep succeeding because they're able to get their hands on data, on public data, and that's what we're talking about today, a bit of what we can address and how we can slow them down, or at least become look like a tougher target, and they'll pass you up to in terms of going to an easier target kind of
Well,
type of thing.
let's break into some stuff. Why don't you share screen and show us what's open and out there, and how easy it actually is. And then let's go into, where our data is at the same time.
Yeah. Open this up here. All right. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about kind of what we're talking about here is the number of employees and people that are becoming targets.
That
And we
human
talked,
error data, right? That's what it's all
yeah,
about. It's all about the human in the loop making a mistake. It's not necessarily everything's open
hmm
and free for the taking, right? Although there is
yes.
some stuff that is open and free for the taking, that human in the loop is always going to be the biggest issue here for
It's
every
all,
organization.
as technology and security becomes better, it becomes harder to hack. It's harder to break those encryptions and so on. But what is always there? What's always constant? It's the humans, right? So
Right.
the humans are the ones that you can go after. And we'll talk about how using information can help them. And so
Okay.
what hackers see when they look for, like, be it your employees or even your friend or your colleague that was recently phished, they probably went through the open web looking for data breaches that happen every day. So your
Okay.
emails that are exposed from the latest breach on, let's say, actually not latest, but LinkedIn. There was a sunglass hut. There was like a Home Depot. There is a variety of different data breaches that have happened in the last, 10 years. Tons of people's emails, millions of people's emails are there. So they'll go through that. It's open source. They can easily get that. What's attached to that email? You have passwords, and those are linked to the accounts. And guess what? People reuse passwords. I know it's going to be a shocker for everybody, but people reuse passwords. And
Guilty.
so,
Guilty.
right? And the other piece that is kind of in the background is happening. Every app that you use, your social media and so on, that personal data is being collected and sold to data brokers. And these data broker sites aren't on the dark web. Some of them are, but on the dark web are like different ones. But the data brokers are things like when you're looking for sales leads and you're looking for people's information, those are data broker sites, right?
Dude,
So
we
if you
use
look at
it. We
that,
use it all the time in our side. Like there's
mhm,
times where I'll get somebody's information and I'll need additional information, even dates of birth, and I
right,
can go find it. Right.
exactly,
That information's out there. I feel like it's just like, oh, it's all public information. You can have my social security number. It's public at this point.
right. And so yeah, so this data is out there and you use it for different things. Like when the attacker or the hackers are using it, they're trying to create a profile about you. They're trying to find the date of birth, social insurance number. They're trying to create a nice file about you and create a persona so that when they approach you, they have a story, they have something to, for you to latch on to make it believable. Same
Hmm.
thing with your professional info on LinkedIn. It shows your connections, what you do on social media, where you went on holidays. These are all things that I can bring up as a conversation starter, right? Hey, how did you like going to the Caribbean this summer or the last winter? I mean, and family connections, interests, so I can approach you on, if you're a hobbyist and you really like to make, I don't know, basket weaving or something like that. I can be like, hey, you wanna create some basket weaving with me or something like that, or join our club. Those are all opportunities for. That's the
Right.
best example, I swear, basket weaving. Um, so all this information is there, and the hackers have the time and the motivation to collect it all and create a profile to be able to attack you. Now, we talked about the phishing. I guess I can
Hmm.
lead into that. So, phishing, for those that aren't familiar with what phishing is, it's essentially a fake. It's like a bait. They're trying to bait you to click on something, and then when you click on it, you then share your credentials. So then they'll take that credential, and then in behind whatever you're doing, they'll go and try to log into your banks, your social media, and so on. So they're trying to impersonate an actual legitimate piece of email, or they even do this with actual letters in the mail nowadays too, with QR codes and so on. So they're very creative. And the idea here is that, can you spot it? And it's becoming really hard to spot what's real or what's not. And there is no standard of how legitimate organizations, actually contact you, which is unfortunate because you don't know if it's fake or not. So we had your equivalent of the IRS contact one of our clients, and it was a legitimate call, but all the flags were saying it was not legitimate. So
Right.
unfortunately, there's no way of seeing what's real or what's not. And a lot of like law enforcement try to give you some guidance, but it's all different. So nothing really just fixes the problem.
It's like if you're not expecting it, don't click on it, right?
Exactly. And, question it and ask questions. Don't look it up online, like the phone number. Don't contact the number that's given to you in the email or the letter. Don't click the link. Always try to validate it through a third party. That's really it. The other piece is like pause for a second and ask your colleague that's beside you, or that usually helps you divert the attack.
Well, they
Um,
hope we're going to be in a rush, right? Like we're not going to be
always,
paying
always,
attention. We're
yeah.
always busy. We're in a rush. We see something. We think it's half legit. We click on it and then boom, we're done.
Yeah, and they're working on your emotions. They're on that sense of urgency. So that's one of the flags. Is if they want you to do it immediately, then that's a bad sign. But when you're in that, you also don't have the sense to notice that when you're in a panic. So it
Right.
doesn't work. Just because you notice it's in a panic, it's too late by the time you've already done the bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I mentioned earlier is like how long does it take? So hackers do have the patience and the motivation, but the reality is it doesn't take very long to do any of this. So they do this by the thousands, and they're hoping that 1 or 2% comes back, and they're very successful. So we go back to how long does it take to create a target profile? In this sense, the target profile would be one of us, and they would go through the data, the breach databases. So they're looking for email leak passwords. They go through the data
Hmm.
brokers, $5, $10. They can get, 100 different pieces of information. Go through social media, you get jobs, contacts, interest, LinkedIn, and Google search for personal details. Anything else, and you have the full history of your entire life if you've been posting for a long time. So there's a lot of really good pieces of information there. The attack phase is also just as fast. So you have credential stuffing. This is where you can get a list of about 1 million different passwords that are typical passwords, and you put them in a file, you run through a program, and it just tries each one. Just think of like trying a different key on the lock. You have a key ring with 100 keys, you try each one until it works. The phishing email creation, about 5 minutes or so using AI. It's super simple and fast to do it. We used to be able to catch them on spelling errors or grammar mistakes or
Right.
something like that. Those are all gone. Now it's just perfect. This sounds so professional. And then the account takeover attempt is 5 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
So total, we're looking at max 30 minutes, and a lot of this can be automated. So they're becoming a lot more efficient at doing this, and we're obviously becoming a lot more targeted for this, and it's becoming scarier for sure. Um, I mentioned this before. It was like the cyber criminals operate like businesses, and it costs just the price of a coffee, for example, of getting a lot of information. On the dark web, you can get credit card information, date of birth, and social insurance numbers for about, I would say, $20 for about 1,000 of those.
Hmm.
Um, that's on the dark web, which means it's usually for the criminal side of things. So people are like, oh, well, no one's going to go there unless they're doing something criminal. Well, if we look at People Looker, Radaris, Spokio, People Finder, all the stuff that you look also for leads, sales leads, and so on,
Yep.
that's exactly the same thing. They are on the surface web, and they're selling you those pieces of information for a subscription price. But you can find a lot of information there. So
I've used them. I've used them on the sales side, not on the criminal side, on the sales side.
good. That's good to hear. Yes. um,
It works. We want to get our information off of those. Is something that we can definitely chat about. So keep going.
Yeah. So the other piece we talked about was the credential stuffing, the using of the passwords from data breaches. So this here is really interesting. I'm not using a slide from 1992. This slide is recent. Okay. This is still the top five in the U.S. Top five passwords in the U.S. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not a good password. Password, also not a good password. These The amount of time that it takes to crack this nowadays with the computers we have, it's like less than a second. So the idea is that people are still using it. you look at the count on the side of how many times it was found in data breaches. That's a lot of times, and we should be better than this. But that's the unfortunate reality. 3 simple things that we usually recommend is use passphrases instead of passwords. There's also pass keys and other hardware things that are a bit more complicated. The simple way of replacing a password is using a passphrase. So something like correct horse battery staple, or even I went to the store to get ketchup. That's better than what you have there is, P @SS0 and so on. The strength is in the length of these. So if you get longer than 14 characters, even 8 characters, it becomes harder to crack. Never reuse the passwords, because if you reuse the password, that means if they get access to one thing, then they get access to everything else. If you don't reuse the passwords, that means they get access to the one thing and everything else is still protected.
How much
So
is MFA helping us here, right? So I have
mhm,
passkeys, I have a lot of different sites where I have to go to my authenticator app to, pull a code from. Everything is MFA
mhm.
nowadays. Where are the criminals on the side of cracking the MFA stuff do they
So
have to steal my
MFA,
phone number too?
it's good that you ask, because so MFA does help. So any sort of secondary type of verification helps.
Right.
Now, if you have MFA, they might go to the next target. But if you, as they're doing the profiling, they find that you are a high valued individual and you have a lot of goodies that they want, um, they'll try to bypass the MFA. And the way they do that is um, they can call you at various hours of the day, hoping
Right.
that they'll call you at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning nonstop until you press stop and accept. And that's happened many times with some critical systems in the past few years. They'll constantly send you uh, accept message and notifications until you get stressed out enough that you just accept it by accident. So there's ways to bypass that. And so,
I had a situation probably, a little more than a year ago where my Facebook account kept getting pinged for
mhm,
reset password for days and days and days and days and days. And I changed the password more than once, but it just kept getting pinged for a reset password or accept a login from a different user from a different location. I mean, the barrage was nonstop. I felt like I was
mhm.
I was legitimately under attack,
You
on my
were
social
under
media.
attack. Yeah, you're definitely under attack. So some of it can be like a precursor, right? They're setting up kind of a baseline of noise so that when they send in another request that you probably would never accept, because you've seen these so many times and you're busy
Right.
doing something else, you're probably going to accept it by accident, thinking it's all the other noise. So that's
Okay.
another tactic as well, is that, um, if they bombard you so much with it, it becomes so much noise that you're going to accidentally say yes. And that's a totally different tactic as well that bypasses the MFA,
Right.
but MFA does help. Now, like I said, you're hoping that you are a much better target in a sense that you're much safer. So then they're going to pass you up. Um, but most of the time, if they really want you, they're going to try their best to do it. And um, but doing these 3 simple actions, for example, they wouldn't even get to that stage. The
Right.
reason they're pushing that hard is that they feel like they have an opportunity to get something out of it.
Yeah. It's not comfortable, not fun. Like I have another person that I know had his phone number stolen and ported away from
Mhm.
them. And then, once you have the phone number, then you can get into the credit cards. You have everything at that point.
Absolutely.
You're so vulnerable. So, this is good what we're getting into right now to be able to protect on the cyber side of things. Now, the cyber program, the personal guard is huge. Plus the insurance component is, totally, totally amazing. So hopefully you can show us a live demo of what's
Yeah,
going on here with
I
cyber as
definitely
well.
definitely can. Just to go over what cyber does in these 5 layers of protection. So it's really addressing the items that the hacker goes through and tries to profile. So what we're trying to do is here, every level here is trying to remove any sort of information away from the profile. So if they
Hmm.
get through the entire profile and it's pretty slim, again, they're going to pass you up. You're not going to be selected. The idea is that we're going to clean up things that are out there. We're also going to monitor data breaches. So the first one there is credential monitoring. So real-time alerts when your password appears in data breaches. These data breaches are made public. Why? Because they want to sell them, right? So they need to advertise them. So Cyber
Right.
has a mechanism that's able to, monitor that. If it comes up in the breaches, they're able to tell you about it. So you can go and change your password and do something. The data broker removal, they're constantly collecting data. So this is something that is constantly being done. We're always sending out requests. So Cyber's always like, take our stuff off. You delete it, delete it, delete it. And there's regulations behind that they have to abide by. Those two, those two will reduce your exposure by about 50%. So right off the, excuse me.
So I think so I just opened up my Cyber app right now. I can't share screen to it, but um I've had 69 data deletions completed on my personal email address. I have 19 currently running in the background and another 43 to go based on what it says, right? That it says I'm 47% exposed, but I go through this and we don't realize these websites exist, these data broker websites like Neighbor Who, People Looker, MoneyBot 5000, like, our information is just everywhere. So the fact that,
Absolutely everywhere.
mine's been removed from 70 and there's another 40 to go and it just keeps working in the background, like you know, it's
That's
super, super helpful.
the the data brokerage industry itself is another $1 billion industry. And a lot of folks, I've heard of the idea that, Facebook and a lot of these things collect your data, but I don't think we really understand like the scale of it. Um, the few milliseconds before you reach a website or go on Amazon and stuff, those advertising that shows up, those advertising are targeting you specifically based on data that they've collected on your profile for the last 6 months. So there's a lot of money to be made there. It's massive. So yes, there's many different sites, and on top of that, there's a lot of reselling. So of the
Hmm.
data, which makes the data removal for some other companies harder. Cyba's been able to do that really well, where they know which one to hit, like kind of like the root of that network. The other piece
All right.
is
So we've
the
got, change your password. Don't keep them consistent. Use passphrases, use MFA,
Mhm.
and then get your data deleted off of,
Yeah, and keep
off of the web. Right. Mhm.
exactly. So part of the password thing is that, the credential monitoring for data breaches that's provided,
Mhm.
the data broker removal, the social media monitoring as well. And then phishing protection is obviously, we just talked about the biggest attack vectors there. And
Right.
then one that most people don't think about is the Wi-Fi security check. So you go to a lot of coffee shops, you go everywhere, you're connecting to Wi-Fi access points. You don't know if those Wi-Fi access points are actually legit or not. It takes $20 for me to go and set something up at the local coffee shop and prop it up and say, Starbucks free Wi-Fi, and you think it's legit because it says it's Starbucks,
Uh,
and it's not. And from that, I can also harvest a lot of data from your devices. So I can then turn it around and sell it as well.
right.
So what we're hitting here is like you see, so 50%, 60%, 70, 80% reduction in your attack surface. And so to me, I would not go after you if you had this because the amount of things I'm going to get out of it is not going to make it worth my time.
Right.
And so I would pass you up and go after someone that doesn't have cyber, for example. Here, let me see if I can show you the actual product, the person guard. If you give me a sec.
Yeah.
So I've already had some audits run here. So we have Aaron. I have yours that's already been run here. That's a different one, but we'll run it again here. That looks right. lginsurancinc.com.
Yep.
Going to launch the scan. The really neat thing is that you can see where it's checking and what it's doing. So it's emulating how an attacker would do it the same way, so that then we can go back and clean it all up. So as you see it completing all of those different stages, you can really see what it's finding, and it gives you really good information on what to do with it. But luckily, Cyber handles most of it and does all the heavy lifting.
That's so cool.
So here we have the category breakdown. You have the data exposure. We have the social engineering. You can tell that you've already been using Cyber because these are pretty good numbers.
Okay.
Some of them here, the email impersonation, for example, so CEO fraud. So these are all very popular attack scenarios. The targeted spear phishing is it'd be like a level up of the regular phishing. So targeted spear phishing would be they've gone through your LinkedIn, they've made friends with your friends, they've established some sort of context and background story, kind of like a spy would. And so then they're going to send you a link of something that you're like, oh, this is totally legitimate. Let me click it. Yeah. Yeah, so it goes through all of this here. I wanted to use a different one here as well, and show you that. But I think this gives you a really good idea of what it does. And you can keep track of it through here. This is the desktop version. The other piece, which I have right here, is what you would see in the application itself.
Right. Yeah, I use the mobile version. I have it on right now, but I didn't realize. I didn't think about the checking the Wi-Fi if I'm going to go use the public Wi-Fi. I have the use the Wi-Fi scanner before logging in. I think that's great.
Yeah, again, it's something that most of the time you forget about that you're using, but use it every day.
Right.
So it's great that it's already working for you in the background. So some of these, a lot of it is going to be working for you in the background and you won't even notice. And that's the beauty of it, is that it's not much effort from your side to become, more secure.
Awesome.
So a lot of the stuff here, we have the breaches being monitored and alerts. We have the passwords being secured. Your data on the broker sites are being removed. The phishing links are being blocked. So if you do fall for it and you click it, you have that safety net. So it's a win-win. The other piece I wanted to show you is that
quote. This is my favorite quote. I love
I
it.
like it. I like it a lot too. It's because it's the truth. And I said this at the beginning, where a lot of folks think that hacking is extremely complex and it requires Hollywood music and Hollywood vibes and Matrix and all that. Nowadays, hackers don't break in, they log in. And what does that mean? It means that they buy your credentials, and they just do what you do.
Right.
Cyber really does make sure that they don't have that chance. They never get that chance. So let me show you quickly
Yep.
what I mean. Okay, let me go through here. So I'm going to show you a hacking tool that a lot of hackers use, the white hat, gray hat, and black hat. This is called Shodan. And what you can do is you can search for anything that's on the internet. And I'm looking for ports, I'm looking for network cameras that are open. So this here is just for the US. And it gives you per state, gives you the ports. These are all the connections of open network cameras.
Anybody good in there?
Here's one that you have of an elevator in a lobby, completely open to the public. I just searched it on Shodan. Here's another one as well, of someone's front door in a hallway in someone's building.
Wow.
I'll show you this quickly, but this here is a file we found online just by doing some Google searching of passwords and access to different things. This here is something like Google dorking that we do. I love the name Google dorking because it's funny. But here we found this sheet just using Google. It's something we use every single day. And we found all those credentials. And what else? We have an exploit database. Again, this isn't on the dark web. This is things that anyone can access. So it isn't hard to access these tools. A lot of the tools are open source. So how do you do it to protect yourself? You can't really ask for these things to be taken down or stop people from trying to attack you. The only thing you can do is on your side to become, how do you call it, less of a target, or
Right.
as you call it, a more secure target, so that they
Don't
pass you up.
upload your password sheet to a website where it can be found.
Right. And that's kind of how I wanted
You
to
know,
show that you have.
it seems a lot of this, you know, it's always common sense, right? But the phishing attacks and the MFA and having correct passwords and not using the same, and you know, it's also the human in the loop, right? We have passwords written down, and then the cleaning company is in the office cleaning
Mhm.
up, looking for passwords because you never know where they're going to resell them to or use them for nefarious things. You know, so we're
Uh,
constantly under attack, and this is tremendously good information. I talk about cyber liability risk on the business side all the time. Cyber helps us on that personal side because I've seen personal funds get stolen in a real estate transaction, right? We didn't even talk about real estate transactions because
right.
those are huge targets. The title companies, the attorneys that are still using America Online email addresses are huge targets for these theft incidents, and the individuals that are wiring money are at risk too for wiring money inappropriately. So it's great to have all these protections and then have the insurance on the other side of it to protect us both personally and professionally. You know, I think is more important than ever before.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think too is that the insurance piece, we humans are great at adapting, so I think we'll adapt to become better, and following these rules, and trying better things so that we don't get attacked. But the attackers are always changing their tactics, so there's going to be mistakes made, and that's where the insurance is, that safety net.
That's it. We don't buy the insurance with the intent of using it, right? We buy it in
Right.
case something happens, but we're always better off protecting our homes, protecting our businesses, protecting our data than worrying about trying to recover it or fix it later because it's nothing is ever 100%. And, you know, there's a lot of time involved with all of it. So Andrew, really great information today. I'm pumped that you were able to get on with me and share on behalf of Cyber and, you know, sharing this information about how easy it is to find passwords and vulnerabilities, and just a good reminder to get everything locked up.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I think, yeah, if this will definitely, hopefully, help everyone kind of get an idea of what the reality is today. And knowing is better than not. So that's what we're hoping here,
Abs-
is that we help.
Absolutely. Thank you again, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.